Yeah, we saw it a little earlier today, and it did not look great for Noriyuki. But the one thing that is a little bit better here is I don't see any copies of Rest in Peace, and we saw kind of how important that was to just shut down Cat Oven, full stop. Maybe something like that can eke over the finish line without that type of effect.
All right, well, both players are rocking and rolling, and Cauldron Familiar down on the battlefield. MVP in the last game for sure. As Kitty Cat can win games out of nowhere if you don't keep your eye on it. But turn 1, Cauldron Familiar. Turn 2, Trail of Crumbs. You love to see it.
Yeah, I love to see it, but this is really the new versatility from Adventures in the Forgotten Realm. This is probably the most important card to touch historic, where Trail of Crumbs was an untouchable magic card from these style of control decks before, outside of -3 on Teferi, but that's a little too late, really. But now Portable Hole really being that bridge gap to be able to deal with the card is very important.
Yeah, it's such a versatile little card, being able to take care of the threat that is the card draw engine in Trail of Crumbs. So a good pick there, a good find for Pardee, who is now going to expressively iterate himself and finds a Mizzix Mastery to hand, Magma Opus. Unfortunately, can't do anything with that right now, and didn't find a land, so...
Yeah, I think we're looking at a little bit of a recap of what exactly just happened to Sam Pardee earlier. His expressive iterations have not been friendly to him. So far, it's just been pick out one card. It hasn't been able to see a land in the last couple that we've seen from Sam.
Yeah, luckily that does have another copy of expressive iterations, so can't whiff twice, as a Torrential Gear Hulk is the draw for turn. Have I just cursed him though? Let's see. Nope, we got 2 lands there, as well as Memory Lapse, so he'll be relieved to see that.
Yeah, and this is so big, but it's really unfortunate that Castle Ardenvale does not have the ability to be untapped from what I can see. So there's no Memory Lapse available here on Korvold, where that was really what you wanted. So maybe a small misstep there on Sam's part, since the other land would have given some extra value, but maybe values the 1/1's humans a little bit more. But being able to Memory Lapse this Korvold is big, and just having to take it is really, really bad right now for Sam.
Yeah, this is a pretty difficult situation here for Sam Pardee. You can kind of see the wince on his face as Noriyuki Mori untapped. And Korvold is just going to get to doing Korvold things. Couple sacrifices here. He's going to get pretty darn big and draw a bunch of cards for Mori, which is so important in this matchup.
Yeah, and right here, I mean, the only clear avenue to take down Korvold is -3 on Teferi, and it's not pretty, but you just see what kind of high equity Sam puts on dealing with Korvold, because, well, if you don't, you die immediately next turn. So good call by Sam to deal with the card that would immediately take him down.
Korvold getting a bunch of counters.
Yeah, the damage is done here, though, even if Korvold's not on the battlefield.
Drawing a bunch of cards. So many cat triggers. Down to 8 is Sam Pardee. And good thing he got rid of that Korvold, otherwise he'd be super duper dead.
Yeah, down to 8 goes Sam, and up to 8 cards in hand goes Noriyuki. That just shows the insane power of Korvold there. When you stack the triggers right, and when you've played 25,000 games of Magic, you know how to do it right.
It's just easy mode at this point for Noriyuki. This is pretty much exactly how he'd want this game to line up for himself. A couple more cat triggers coming in. There is, of course, the Lightning Helix for Sam Pardee, so he's not immediately dead, but it's not looking really good right now for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Maria was saying eat, sleep, arena, but you know what? At this rate, it almost looks like Noriyuki Mori is playing in his sleep with the autopiloting here, just knowing the plays already when it comes to each situation.
And what's in the bin here for Sam Pardee? Is there anything that can help him stabilize a little better here?
From what I remember, I believe it was just the iterations. Yep. I mean, so we have the ability to discard Magma Opus and then Mizzix Mastery it back, but is that even good enough? Sam says no and decides to just try to interact on Noriyuki's turn. But this is not looking good for Sam.
Oh, hello, Korvold.
Welcome back. That's the one that was tucked from Teferi. Doesn't go too far from the top with Trail of Crumbs. And that's what Sam recognizes. Like, well, I mean, it just destroyed me a couple turns ago. So, I mean, I have to Memory Lapse it now, but it's not a permanent solution. So, going to be a really tough game for Sam to win.
Yeah, Sam realizing there's an opportunity to kill a creature and get the 3 life. So, back up to 10. Kitty's going to bring it back down to 9. Second Corvold in hand.
And both these players at 6 and 2, so both in top 4 right now. That's that magic number we're looking for at the end of the day to kind of have it a little bit easier on Sunday. We'll have 2 7-pointers after this, and we'll see which one of these players it will be.
Yes, indeed. Here comes Woe strided down the battlefield. Going to just add to the sacrificial woes here for Sam Pardee. Now, what do we follow up with here, if anything?
Yeah, discarding Magma Opus and then being able to do, what really this type of Jeskai control deck is meant to do. The thing that really sets it apart from the other style of Jeskai control, and that's Gear Hulk during your opponent's upkeep, where you get to tap down some things, you get to kill something, you get to make a 4/4. For 6 mana, you get to do a lot of things. Or, yeah, we can just see Mizzix's Mastery overloaded here, but it's not insane right now. Definitely not insane. We might just see the front half for Magma Opus.
That's Mizzix's Mastery. You're going to grab Magma Opus, tap down a couple things, deal some damage, draw some cards. I mean, it's such a powerful card, but at this point in the game, it just feels like pretty mediocre, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nothing really mega about it there. But it's still better than the other Jeskai control deck when it gets that far behind. This is an avenue to come back. Mizzix's Mastery being overloaded is probably the most powerful thing you can be doing in Historic. Obviously, depending on your graveyard, but that does give Sam some outside chance to come back, but I don't think either of the Jeskai control decks can realistically come back from this situation.
Yeah, he just drew perfectly. Found exactly what he needed. Got really lucky that Sam didn't have an untapped land there for the memory lapse on Corvold. And Corvold did most of the damage. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and Sam got really unlucky, to be honest. Both of those expressive iterations were bad. The second one hit land, but you really needed an untapped land. Castle and Triumph were one of the very few lands that were not going to be untapped. So it was really unfortunate there for Sam in the early game. Because that Corvold really spawned all this that we're seeing in front of us now.
Oh, yeah. Corvold's booked his ticket to Valley Town several times this weekend, as Magma Opus is eventually going to resolve now that all the sacrifice triggers are out the way. Noriyuki Mori has done a bunch of scrying and has left Binding the Old Gods on top of the library.
A nice little answer in case things get carried away, or get rid of that portable hole, get another trail going so you got a little bit more value, so well, you can just draw more cards than the Jeskai control deck.
At this point, you don't want to be shocking in those dual lands. 4 life is nothing to these kittens, as we're going to see another kitty cat jump out the graveyard and going to dig through a couple more cards on top of the library here, and a second oven. Oy. That's going to do it. Sam Pardee sees the writing on the wall, and we're going to go to a game number 2 here between these two players.
All right, impressive stuff by Noriyuki Mori. 1 game away from being a co-leader of the tournament, with whoever else wins between Madi Kuzma and Arne Huschenbeth.
So it's exciting stuff now for these players because they're getting one step closer to racking up those 9 wins. That's what they need. Once you have 9 wins, you're good. You're in the top 12, and that's exactly where you want to be.
Yeah, this match is huge for that. Getting up to 7 before you go into standard, you can 2-1 your way into automatic top 12 berth. But if you lose this one, you got a 3-0 to get those 9 wins. So that is a big difference.
Take a look at the opening hands here. We're on a multi 5 here for Mori. That is not what you want to see. 1 land in hand. Is he going to risk it for the biscuit? I don't think he wants to, and it sends it back.
That's a great hand, though.
Very good hand.
Yep.
Having Goose into Trail of Crumbs, I mean, that's perfect.
As long as there's nothing on the other side of the battlefield that can interact with that, and unfortunately, there is a portable hole. We'll see if it goes on this Goose, or if you wait for the Trail of Crumbs. Yeah, I think I like this.
Goose is getting got. Goodbye, little friend. Oh, double Trail of Crumbs. Okay. That's pretty nifty.
Wow. Okay, we're gonna see one of the very powerful reasons, and Sam Pardee finally hit a good expressive iteration here where he gets to utilize 2 cards here instead of just 1. Now this game is really going to showcase the power of Gearhulk Magma Opus, since we're gonna be able to do that as soon as it looks like turn 5 still, but that's quite fast when Noriyuki is not really doing anything that's super aggressive.
Yeah, no. He didn't draw the nuts like he did in the first game, but it's still early days yet. Anything can happen. It does have an oven now. Just needs to find something else to do.
Interesting choice there by Sam Pardee, taking the interaction instead of more card advantage. Just saying that this Magma Opus Gearhulk plan is just enough value. That's all I really need.
Yeah.
And actually a big draw there by Sam, because the Clifftop Retreat and Castle were both going to enter tapped with drawing Glacial Fortresses and Sulphur Falls. So now at least we unlocked the Clifftop Retreat.
Nice. Trail of Crumbs doing work on the end steps of the sacrifice of the food. Paid the 1, found another Binding the Old Gods. Oh man, it must be so tempting just to try and jam a Binding the Old Gods to get the goose back.
It really is, especially when you have 2. It's definitely more. You consider it a lot more when you have a second one. Otherwise, you really need it for Teferi and Gearhulks. But
yeah.
Either way here, this is going to be pretty rough for Noriyuki, just because it's Gearhulk time next turn already.
Yeah, double Opus into the bin. Ooh.
Yeah.
That is super duper scary indeed. At this point, you got to think Sam Pardee is very much in the driver's seat. There's an Anger of the Gods. No creatures to kill yet, as we haven't found any for Mori.
Yeah,
this next turn's gonna be rough.
Yeah, we'll see if we just, especially with sacrificing that food here, where there's really nothing Noriyuki can do with his mana during his upkeep, we might just see that Gearhulk tapping down, let's say, the green source and the red source, effectively time walking, simultaneously putting 9 power into play, also dealing 4 damage. I mean, this combination is just absurd.
Yeah, it's so gross. When I saw Magma Opus the first time, I kind of did a double take. I'm like, that's an instant?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah, it's incredible. And then when you pair it with Mizzix's Mastery, it was just like, okay, this is going to be a deck in Historic for sure. Speak of the devil.
Oh, hey, buddy. Let's get some more value here, as now Sam Pardee is just going to run away with things as Magma Opus is going to be cast for the second time without actually paying its mana cost. How fun.
Yeah, the one thing I love more than 1 Magma Opus is just a second.
Yeah, why not? And, some extra burn there for Lightning Helix just to get this game one and done in blazing fast time.
And these are where these decks differ, these Jeskai control lists. And, it's really this explosiveness that you get with the Gearhulks, where you can end the game very quickly, rather than, let's say, with Mataquisma just fighting the clock and winning with 40 seconds left, Sam didn't want to do that to himself. He's like, let's just get these games over with.
Yeah, I personally, I kind of prefer the Gearhulk version. And, Sam Pardee is also such a fast player. He doesn't take too long to make decisions. His turn is done in an incredibly fast time. Ether Gust on Binding the Old Gods is going to be enough for Noriyuki Mori. I'm going to go to game number 3 here and hope to not see a multi-5 from the Japanese player.
Yeah, it's not quite Shota and, Luis Scott Vargas' speed of playing Magic, but Sam is definitely right up there. And, most of the time that's just saying you may be playing too fast, but Sam just plays at a masterclass level, and it's definitely not rushing anything.
Well, speaking of fast, we're going to take a very quick commercial break, so don't go anywhere. We'll have plenty more after this. Welcome back to round 9 of the Challenger Gauntlet. This is the last round of Historic, and we have Junfood and Jeskai control the hands of Noriyuki Mori and Sam Pardee, respectively. Both players have a game apiece, so we're going to jump into the deciding round here to see who is going to be our first 7-2 player.
It's a very fitting last main match of Historic here between Jeskai and Junfood. These have been the decks that have really been performing at the highest level so far in the Historic rounds.
Yeah, I love me some Jun Sacrifice. It's an awesome deck to pilot and play. On the other side of things, I know the Jeskai control is more your cup of tea, Corey.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I love casting a good Teferi and untapping and having memory lapse. There's no better feeling. That's why Magic is great. We both get to enjoy this game in different ways, right? Just one of them's wrong. You know what? No, I'm just
yes. Yeah. Yes. Exactly right. You couldn't have said it better. Teferi is the worst, but anyway.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah. These opening hands here, not too shabby from Sam's side of things. A little unfortunate, though, for Noriyuki. Had to mulligan just with a one-lander in hand. You know, had Cats, had Oven. Could have risked it for the biscuit there, but wasn't happy to do so. This will result in a turn to 12 crumbs, and he'll be quite happy with that. Unfortunately, though, we do see Portable Hole in Sam Pardee's hand.
Yeah, Noriyuki has mulliganed quite a bit in these Historic rounds that we've watched in these first 3 to start the day. And yeah, I want to point out that draw from Sam Pardee did not have red here, so unbelievable first draw there. And then a second Portable Hole to clean up another pesky thing later on. That was best possible for Sam.
Oh, for sure. Mori does have some interaction in the form of Thoughtseize, so that's going to be his go-to to kick off his turn. We'll have a look and see Teferi, Expressive Iteration, Lightning Helix, and another Portable Hole. Taking that Teferi?
Interesting here, you know, the hand isn't completely made, so Expressive Iteration does threaten a lot of value. Lightning Helix is the only answer to Mayhem Devil here. The big problem with Noriyuki is you don't have a clear sense of what you want to take because you need to draw something. So it's just trying, because right now just Mayhem Devil is not going to win this game. So, you know, I think it's completely fine to leave Lightning Helix and let's say take Teferi or take Expressive Iteration and just hope you can find Corvold and start going off with that. But yeah, this is a tough one. I think I take Teferi if I'm Noriyuki, but I can really see defense made for that or Iteration or Helix.
Teferi gets to hang around. Expressive Iteration is going to be the pick. Mayhem Devil is a good card, but it needs a lot of help to be good. You know, it's not good by itself. So without a sacrifice engine going, there's no real reason to dump it on the board. So Mori's going to be hoping for something a little bit more impactful.
And look at this draw, Ailey. Magma Opus to just be like, all right, turn 4 Gear Hulk. I didn't need that land. And yeah, look at Noriyuki to seize it. And with Mizzix's Mastery to just follow it up later, both are just ridiculously powerful plays right now. And I think I like Teferi first, but that is not good news for Noriyuki after that Thoughtseize to stop this kind of thing from happening.
Not at all. Now there's a Planeswalker down. There's 2 untapped lands and Lightning Helix. Things are looking very dire indeed here for Noriyuki.
Yeah, and it's time to play a very powerful 5-drop. Not Giganta, though. We were looking for Corvold here. This one's pretty easily dealt with either the Tuck ability. Oh, my. Here we go. We have a great line from Sam. If needed, you can tuck away Giganta and then Magma Opus, play a land tap, or you can tuck, just play a land tapped, have Memory Lapse available, and go for Mizzix's Mastery next turn. Or draw. Oh, my. The world is Sam Oyster. It just keeps drawing some nice ones.
Yeah, this is looking very, very grim here for any Jun fans out there, as Sam Pardee is just putting on a clinic right now as to here is why you should play the Torrential Gear Hulk version of this deck. Turns out it's kind of good.
Oh, this is an excellent play here. Now we get to untap some lands and finish this Giganta off with a Lightning Helix. Oh, just an excellent play.
Very nicely done. Lightning Helix will take care of Giganta. No sacrifice outlets, so the life comes to Sam Pardee. Binding the Old Gods is drawn, and he will be able to take care of Teferi, which is super duper good indeed. But we see a good old Torrential Gear Hulk in hand, so things are not looking much better once that Teferi does eventually leave the battlefield.
Interesting play there. Noriyuki did have the option to go Woe Strider, sack the goat to Phyrexian Tower, and then binding as well. It's not like it's that big of a deal to just have a 3-2 as well, but at least could have had a little something extra on the battlefield. Doesn't line up great against the 4-4 anyways, but...
Still plenty of interaction in hand for Sam. Pardee has the Justice Strike, has the Torrential Gearhulk online. Memory Lapse 2 to send something back here, and Time Walk Noriyuki. So we're going to go for the Mayhem Devil first and foremost and see what can come of this play.
And we definitely have at least Lightning Helix in the graveyard for Sam. So Gearhulk, Lightning Helix, this Mayhem Devil is already just a phenomenal play. Might even be some other goodies in there.
Here comes the Woe Strider. Again, no sacrifice outlet available, so could see Torrential Gearhulk into the Helix potentially.
Yep, looks like the only target here, but it's a good one. Can't complain too much about that.
Yep. Deal with the thing that pings, and now Woe Strider has got some work to do to try and find something relevant off the top of the library. And for Sam Pardee, it's go time. Let's just start shoving, get these massive creatures swinging. Gonna take 4 and go down to 8 is Mori, but the Woe Strider will sacrifice the goat, take a look at the top of the library, and hopefully find something relevant. It's not, so that'll go to the bottom.
Yeah, Mori had really one avenue there, and that was to have that Mayhem Devil resolve. Chapter 3 of Binding go on the stack, and then Fabled Passage turns into kill Gearhulk or kill the 4-4. And then you can stack the food to do the same. But now it's going to be a little tricky. Binding, decent, but with Memory Lapse on the other side, it's not going to work the way Noriyuki would like it to.
Yeah. As it stands, Mori's not dead with Justice Strike taking care of the Woe Strider. Does have the food to sacrifice.
Yep. Looks like Sam could go Memory Lapse, Binding, make a 1-1, and then Justice Strike Woe Strider. But then with the food, Noriyuki would still be at 1. So, yep, not quite lethal yet, but it's pretty much over here. Even if you Memory Lapse this, you know what we're going to draw. I guess you have the Fabled Passage to shuffle it away and hope for something else, like a Corvold, I guess. But looking pretty bleak.
Yeah. Jeskai Control proving why it was the most played deck this weekend. Why it's the big bad. That it's just pretty darn good. As much as I hate to say it, Jeskai Control still a contender, even with Brainstorm suspension.
Yep, absolutely. And this Jund Food deck, we don't want to take away from that, because all the decks that are trying to target Jeskai Control, Jund Food is just excellent against. So I think it's a pretty good metagame call as well. You'd like to see a little less than 40% Jeskai, though. Something in the 25% range would be a little bit easier to deal with. But yeah, this gets to be tricky.
Yeah, and with the Woe Strider being escaped, that's going to be...
That's lethal.
Yeah, Justice Strike will take care of that. The goat will do its best, but it's going to get stuck in a portable hole. And Sam Pardee is going to go to 7-2. Congratulations to him. So a very nice victory there indeed. Any final thoughts there, Corey, on that matchup? It pretty much went how you'd expect to see it go. I mean, Jund's sacrifice is pretty good, but up against Jeskai Control, you think that it's favored most of the time?
Yeah, it really seems like it should be a relatively close matchup, but it's just proving time and time again throughout this tournament that it's not that way. It's turning into maybe closer to maybe a 70-30, where you feel pretty lucky if you win from the Jund side. So, played out exactly like we thought.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like not on the Jund player's side. So we're going to go to a very short break, and when we come back, we'll have plenty more action. So don't go anywhere. Welcome back to round number 9 of the Challenger Gauntlet. I'm Ailey Loney alongside Corey Baumeister, and we've seen some cracker of matches so far, Corey. It's been one heck of a showcase from these players, all vying for their spot in the World Championship coming up later this year.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm sure a lot of these players are just like, all right, just 9 wins, just got to get there. So what we're going to do now is jump into one of our backup matches. It's going to be Bernardo Torres up against Tomas Pokorny, playing Dragonstorm versus Mono Black Aggro. Tomas is up a game currently. He managed to get a pretty sweet win with the Dragonstorm combo. So let's jump into game number 2 here and see if Mono Black Aggro can get the game won.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we get to end our historic run for the weekend watching Dragonstorm. This deck is so sweet, and Tomas actually got to combo off with Terror the Peak and Blade Wings for the infinite damage. And yeah, exciting stuff. Let's hopefully we see it again. But the one thing I want to say is post-board, probably the best card against this Dragonstorm deck is that sneaky little discard card up in your top right corner of your strength, and that's Go Blank. Go Blank is insane against this deck. Not only do you need a lot of resources to combo off in your hand, but you need resources in your graveyard, and it takes care of both of them. The best Mind Rod I've ever seen.
Yeah, very, very useful card from Strixhaven, and a bunch more disruption spells to boot. We see Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize in hand there, as well as relevant threats in the Knight of the Ebon Legion and Skyclave Shade for Torres. He's going to take a quick look, see the Faithless Lootings and the Expressive Iterations, as well as Mystic's Mastery, and he'll happily pick apart that hand.
Yeah, a lot of discard here. Pretty good against this hand. Not as many threats from Bernardo, but still, Skyclave Shade and Knight of the Ebon Legion can definitely close out a game. And Tomas just has so much card draw and so much card manipulation here.
Yep. Faithless Looting will find Memory Lapse and Fire Prophecy. Now, what to discard? That's the question.
I think I like Memory Lapse as one of the discards just because everything costs, so little against these mono black decks. I'm not a big fan of that card. And yeah, I think it's close between Faithless Looting or Fire Prophecy. Yeah, I think it's just got to be Faithless Looting and Memory Lapse.
Yeah, I like hanging on to the Fire Prophecy because, there are threats that will kill Tomas if he lets them hang out.
Yeah. And Fire Prophecy, not the best against these mono black decks, just because every single one of these threats is just coming back over and over and over again. It's a really tough deck to deal with outside of exile removal, like Portable Hole, Rest in Peace, that kind of thing.
Skyclave Shade is going to be the play here for Bernardo Torres. Not going for the Thoughtseize plus the Inquisition to just continue ripping apart the hand here of Tomas.
And here's the one kind of punisher for getting rid of Faithless Looting is drawing these cards like Dragonstorm or Bladewing the Risen or Terror of the Peak, the card that you really want in your graveyard. That's a little bit of a punisher case because you would love to put that into your graveyard instead of, let's say, Fire Prophesying it and put it on the bottom of your graveyard. It doesn't do as much good at the bottom as it does in your graveyard.
Sure. Faithless Haven is going to be the draw here for Bernardo. So lucky to find land number 3. And Faithless Haven is something that you definitely want to get down on 3 if you have nothing else to do on turn 4. It can jump up and start smacking. And that's something that Mono Black Aggro really likes to do.
Does like to do the smacking, that's for sure. So great draw there, I totally agree. Getting you one step closer to Rankle. The only unfortunate thing is you can't triple one drop here. Inquisition, Thoughtseize, and Knight of the Ebon Legion. But, not so bad.
Yeah, not too shabby. Fire Prophecy, considering taking care of the Skyclave Shade, which will just come back once Faceless Haven hits the board.
I'm not the biggest fan of that just because it is a little bit better suited at doing it at end step. So now no matter what, Bernardo can just replay it as long as he has land number 3. If you do it at end step, of course, you're not going to get hit with it for sure, but Thoughtseize could have been a punisher case as well.
Inquisition's going to take another look and grab Expressive Iteration.
And here it comes.
Did you deem this yesterday, the cockroach?
This whole deck is basically a cockroach. Yeah, just always keeps coming back and never dies. Yep.
Well, what do you have to say about the Dragonstorm deck? Those keep coming back too. The super roaches.
Yeah, but they come back one time and then it's over from that point, and yeah, that's all I got on that.
Infinite damage, Corey.
All right.
Infinite.
Fair. You got me there.
Ooh, Spawn of Mayhem. Hello. That card is so sweet.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in this matchup where a lot of Tomas's removal deals 3 damage. So Spawn of Mayhem is actually really this card that can't really be killed too easily and creates an extremely fast clock.
Oh, yeah. Just pinging players. It gets bigger once Torres' life total goes beneath 10. It's just a very difficult card to deal with. And currently doesn't have a way to do so right now. Taking a look in the library there to see if Mizzix's Mastery can hit anything.
That being said, there is a way to take Spawn down here. It's not pretty, you don't love it because it uses a lot of your resources, and that's just Prismari command dealing 2 to it and then Fire Prophecy it while you also make a treasure. But that's not really what this deck wants to be doing. Prismari command is more of a combo card than an actual removal spell. You really want to go on Tomas's end step, draw 2 cards, look at that magical 9-drop in the form of Dragonstorm, toss it into your graveyard, and then Mizzix it back next turn.
Yeah. Ideally, that's what we would see. So Tomas still has a turn. He's on a 2-turn clock here, but still has a turn to try and work his way into the combo. The time is running out, though, as we're going to see a swing in here for 7. Do you take it, Tomas? Let's find out.
Tough spot here. You definitely want to hope that there's no Thoughtseize. Hope there's just creatures, and you can go end step Prismari command, draw a couple of cards, maybe deal 2 to the Skyclave Shade, but you need to find that Dragonstorm and then hope to combo off next turn, but that involves some luck here, that's for sure.
Looks like he's going to go towards Prismari command. Has his mind set on dealing the 2 damage to any target. He's just contemplating what to do with the rest of the options.
Yeah, I like it here. This is just saying, all right, if you don't have a hand disruption spell and I can draw Dragonstorm here, I'm going to be sitting pretty good. But unfortunately, that was not the case.
They're going to take 4, down to 10 he goes. And there's a second Faceless Haven, so we can get back the Skyclave Shade. Or let's just go Thoughtseize. Let's get rid of that Mizzix's Mastery.
Yeah, I think step number 1 is Thoughtseize, even though the combo is not really possible at this stage. But still, just getting rid of a card and then presenting a threat. Knight of the Ebon Legion is pretty good as well. It would get the counter from Spawn dealing too, but Skyclave Shade will be able to hit a little harder for next turn.
Yeah, just a rough spot for Tomas. Yeah. Just trying to figure out, how do I stay alive here?
Yeah, and this is a really big match here. To be able to get 5 wins going into Standard, neither of these players are going to be able mathematically to get to that 9 wins, but that doesn't mean they can't make the top 12. Being able to get 8 wins, it has a very solid chance at being able to make it. Maybe not in that top 4 spot, but still a very good record. And Bernardo just going for it here, just going for lethal. And I mean, it makes sense. Fire Prophecy was not in the hand before, so it has to be there.
Oh, I love it. Faceless Haven is going to get got here, and we'll see 7 damage come across.
I'm getting some deja vu here, Ailey. Didn't we see Fire Prophecy drawn by Tomas in round 1 yesterday, right when he needed it to stay alive?
We can do it again. 1 time, big money, no whammy. I mean, you got to send it back, right? Otherwise, you're just kind of super duper duper dead.
Yeah, definitely. And we see the Bladewing in the graveyard. So if Dragonstorm were to be able to be cast, you only need the Mizzix and Dragonstorm, but we're still so far away from it that it's not a possibility next turn. So contemplating just getting rid of Mizzix's Mastery to try to find something to deal with the Spawn of Mayhem. The Spawn is just, it hits so hard.
Tough decision here, but I mean, I don't know how he stays alive otherwise.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a way out of this here from Tomas as well. Even if we have Brazen Bars in the deck, which I'm not even sure he brought in, bouncing Spawn, Skyclave Shade still wins the game that way. Yeah. I guess like it's something like top decking Prismari Command, dealing with Skyclave Shade, and then drawing into Brazen Borrower and being able to bounce. But yeah, it's probably not a 7-mana Dragon Ailey. I don't think that's the answer.
No. You don't want to see that.
Yeah, that's gonna do it for this game. But on the bright side, we're gonna get a game 3 between these two awesome players.
Yep, I'm looking forward to that. So let's see as Tomas does his last few calculations. Can Mizzix's Mastery keep him alive here? It's not looking super good.
Nope, really nothing to get it done here. One card that really helps you catch up from the Dragonstorm side is Anger the Gods, but Spawn is that one card that really throws a wrench into this.
Yeah, Faithless Looting, gonna take a look and say, good game, nothing I can do to stay alive. So let's go to game number 3 here. As Mono Black Aggro manages to tie it up in the hands of Bernardo Torres.
Yep, just a solid draw from Bernardo, just being able to pressure and, and time it out with a couple of key discard spells was enough to take this game down. All
right, so both players ready to rock and roll. Let's jump back in and take a look at their opening hands and see who we like in this one. Pretty good hand here. Oh, hello. I was just looking at Tomas's, and then I have a look up there, and Mono Black Aggro was just like, oh, look at me. I have 3 Thoughtseize.
Yeah, a pretty nice hand here. And normally I don't like the turn 1 Faithless Looting play, but whenever you have one of the dragons or Dragonstorm itself, it feels kind of free. You're like, yep, this for sure going into my graveyard. So it's almost like you net a card where normally Faithless Looting is card disadvantage. So I agree with this play. It's just gonna not work out great with getting Thoughtseized this Expressive Iteration, and then almost assuredly getting the other one Thoughtseized next turn. And, the one good news for Tomas is we are going to have some Faithless Lootings in the graveyard to be able to do some manipulating.
Yeah, in that instance, you don't really mind if you're playing this deck. You don't mind if your stuff gets discarded because that's where you want it to be most of the time. You just got to worry about the turn 3 go blank, like you mentioned, just being able to exile the graveyard and essentially leave you with nothing.
Yeah, go blank, leaves your graveyard blank, and every time it's cast against me, it leaves my facial expressions blank. I was just like, really? Come on. Do we have to do that? Thank you. Okay.
Fire Prophecy is going to take care of the Skyclave Shade. And there's a Bladewing the Risen in hand. Finds a mountain off the top 2.
Interesting decision here for Tomas. Either play Expressive Iteration on turn 3, which is that kind of iconic turn to play it. Put a good card into your hand, put a land in exile and play it, and some other card on the bottom. But with drawing Bladewing, it is another pretty solid turn to just go Faithless Looting from the graveyard, discard Bladewing, and hopefully a Dragonstorm, and just pray for no go blank.
There we go. All right, so that's essentially the best that he could have hoped for there, and no go blank from Bernardo right now. But Will gets a double Thoughtseize.
Okay, we're in the Mizzix's Mastery waiting room right now. If we draw Mizzix's Mastery next turn, that's game. It doesn't matter. You have a dragon in your graveyard. That's all you need to complete this combo. So is it there?
Let's find out. Is he going to get it? Memory Lapse? All right, that'll slow Bernardo down a little bit.
Oh, that's not bad, actually. You really need to play land 4 anyways because you need it. Now, if you draw another land, you can hold it for Faithless Looting. But a nice Steam Vent, say go, Memory Lapse, something to make sure, really just Memory Lapse go blank. Like, that's the thing you need to make sure that doesn't hit you at this stage of the game. And then just say, come on, give me Mizzix's Mastery one time.
That's what he's going to be hoping for here. I want to see it. Let's see Dragonstorm go off. As a decision is being made here between, do I hold up a Memory Lapse or am I going for Faithless Looting? And Tomas is going for the looting. Let's see what he finds. Fire Prophecy and a Memory Lapse. All right.
Pretty aggressive line. We'll see if that pays off for Tomas.
Yeah, I kind of like it. You got to find it. You're going to die pretty quickly otherwise.
The big problem is if you find it this turn and there's one of the 1 million hand disruption spells in Bernardo's hand. We know that's not the case. Yeah. But that was the risk.
That was the risk indeed. And the one other thing that I do see in hand, if it is found this turn, Oh, he's not going to leave it up, though. Murderous Rider could take care of the Terror of the Peaks.
It's
and he finds it!
That's game.
Oh, you made the right choice, Tomas.
Wow, incredible play that gets rewarded. Mizik's Mastery is going to return Dragonstorm. Terror of the Peaks is going to hit the battlefield, followed by Bladewing the Risen, returning Bladewing the Risen, and then returning Bladewing the Risen, and winning the game.
Oh, man, Bernardo.
Tomas can't believe his eyes.
I can't either. That was 100% the right choice there to just YOLO, go for it, and it has paid off. Mizik's Mastery, let's go. Let's find some Dragonstorms. And you can see Bernardo's face. He knows.
Yeah.
It's over.
Oh my, here we go. Terror of the Peaks, and this is the combo. This deck is so sweet. Being able to take advantage of the legendary rule while the trigger is still on the stack. Kill some creatures first. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Just wipe up the board. It's totally fine. But Bernardo shaking his head. He knows that this is just the worst case scenario, pretty much. Dead to a top deck, and Tomas found it. So
Terror of the Peaks.
Excellent one here. It's great to see this going off.
Terror of the Peaks doing the best Oprah Winfrey impression. You get 4 damage. You get 4 damage. You get 4 damage.
Everybody gets 4 damage.
Everybody's getting 4 damage here.
Bernardo just sunk off the screen there, and I feel for you, my friend. It hurts. It hurts 4 times. Yep. 4 damage every time it hurts.
Yeah, and that's the thing with these mono black decks and just hand disruption in general in this metagame. It is great with Brainstorm being gone. There's no way to really manipulate those cards to be hidden, but you can't Thoughtseize the top of the deck. And if you can get Dragonstorm and one of these dragons in your graveyard, you find Mizik's Mastery, the game ends on the spot, and that's the power of this deck.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, Tomas. Just making sure that he's extra super duper dead. And is going to advance to 5 and 4. So congratulations to Tomas. Dragonstorming his way to victory there. Corey, that was amazing.
Yeah, I love this deck so much. It's like I'm a kid at a candy store when I see this deck go off. I played Dragonstorm back in the day when you just had to cast Rite of Flame and Seething Song to go get it and get buggered on Hellkite and, win the hard way. This is a much cooler way to take it down with Dragonstorm. So congrats to Tomas.
That was super awesome. And we're going to hear from Tomas now as Maria managed to get an interview with him.
Hey everybody, I've got Tomas here who's sitting at 5 and 4 in the Challenger Gauntlet, and we are leaving Historic today, but you brought probably the coolest deck to the tournament, Dragonstorm. Talk to me about that decision.
Yeah, that was a decision which I basically made on the last day before submission. Basically, I was expecting to go with Jeskai, which is my favorite deck. I've been playing it a lot. Been playing it for a couple months now. Even before the Gearhulk and everything was legal, I've been playing it for a long time. But I just felt like it had some pretty rough matchups, as we can see sometimes in these matches in Historic these days in the Gauntlet. So that's why. On the last day, I was talking with my teammates from Inside Esports, and one of my teammates, Sam, built this deck list. I basically got it from him, just made some small sideboard changes, and we thought that a big part of the metagame is going to be Jeskai and Junt, which I guess Junt didn't turn out to be that big, but it's the second biggest deck, so still good enough. And Jeskai, 10 people, I think, so that kind of came true. So. Those were the 2 decks we're trying to metagame against. Unfortunately, I only faced 1, just kind of the 6 rounds. But, the deck is strong, can still win against other decks as we just seen. So I'm happy with my choice for Historic.
Yeah, it's a really cool deck, too. So if people at home are looking for a Historic deck, check it out. You also brought a unique deck to Standard, which we've got coming up this afternoon. Sultai Control, only one other player playing it, Brad Barkley. Talk to me about that decision.
Yeah, we were testing with Brad for Standard. This is a deck list which we also kind of decided for on the weekend of the submission. Before I was still considering stuff like Gruul for Standard. I think that was a really good choice as well. But we just felt there was going to be a lot of these creature decks, the adventure decks in Standard. So we thought we had a good matchup against them, which I still think we do. But of course, they can still win, so that we still lose some games to them. But I feel like Spinoda and a little bit led us against Gruul. But I think against all these like adventure decks, we have a pretty good matchup. We have a lot of removal, and then we have a good way to like close out the game with the Serpents, which I think just gives us a better chance than something like Sultai Ultimatum, which has a rougher time like dealing with everything and then trying to resolve its like big haymakers.
How are you feeling headed into the last half of the tournament here?
Well, I'm really happy about winning the last match. That was a pretty tough opponent on a very difficult deck to beat. So really happy coming basically 2-1 today out of Historic. I guess still with a chance to make the top cut. So hopefully, Stena's gonna go well. Let's see about that. And yeah, I'm happy where I am currently. Obviously, some of you might have seen me yesterday lose a match to the clock. So I'm gonna try to manage my clock a bit better. It's really difficult in these like grindy long games, but I'm gonna try to do my best, and we'll see.
All right. Thank you so much, Tomas. Everybody, we will be right back. Best of luck to you the rest of the way.
Thank you, Maria.
Welcome back to round number 9 of the Challenger Gauntlet. We've got more action from round number 9 for you. In the historic portion, we can't get enough of it, so we're going to just see one more game of historic. Corey, you excited?
I'm excited. We keep saying that this is the last match, and we just keep giving you more. You know, we're really trying to be givers here.
Promise this time. This time
it's
it's
going to be a good one. This is going to be a really good one. It is
indeed. It's going to be Mari Kuzma versus Arne Huschenbett in a Jeskai control mirror. So let's jump into game number 3 here. The decider between these two players playing pretty much the exact same deck, just a few slight differences in the sideboard.
Yeah, almost identical. They tested together. You know, they know each other's sideboard plans. So this becomes really interesting, right? When you work on a sideboard guide together and you're like, when we play against Jeskai, we do X, Y, and Z. But when they know they're going to do X, Y, and Z, how do you differ from that? And, you know, that is an advantage to being able to adjust from these kind of plans that you've already created. Kind of weird, but it definitely comes into play.
Well, I mean, in this situation, do you ever deviate? Do you ever have your, okay, in case I face my teammate, I'm going to do this instead?
Yeah, there's minor things like that can be deviated on. And I think that's valuable because, you know, let's say one removal spell that you know that everyone's taking out, you don't play around that card anymore. And that can really, really bite you if you just think, well, you know, my opponent's not going to do anything different than the plan. That sometimes is not true. A pretty tough hand here.
Yeah, he's agonizing over this. No white in it. Does have Steam Vents and Castle Vantress. A little bit of interaction in the Brazen Borrowers. But on the other side of things, Arne's hand looks pretty phenomenal. Turn 2, search for his Canter. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, and that's the big thing there. And we're seeing both of these players actually put portable holes in just to respect these search for his Cantas or sharks. You know, it does hit a big shark or a big commence, but normally a card you don't see in these Jeskai controlled mirror matches is something like portable hole.
Yeah, so Madi, you're going to take the mulligan there. Happier with the hand he has. 3 lands, got Narset, got Prismari Command, 2 memory lapses. One of those has to go back though. So let's see what he decides to put to the bottom.
This is something that really is really explains what these mirror matches about by Kuzma there, is didn't even consider putting one of these lands on the bottom because these mirror matches are all about making sure you just keep hitting land drops over and over. It's the most important thing.
Yeah, because even being on, you know, the draw as opposed to the play, you're 1 land behind already. So you can't miss a land drop. You have to keep up. If you don't keep up, your opponent's going to multi-spell and then you're just in big, big trouble from there.
Exactly. These players are both in the top 4 as of right now. Winner is going to move to 7 points to be tied with Sam Pardee. So a really big match here to kind of set yourself apart and be able to 2-1 the standard portion into that magical 9 wins. Otherwise, the loser has to win 3.
Yeah, so you definitely want to keep winning to make your route to the World Championship as easy as possible.
Both sitting great, though. As far as top 12 goes regardless, but getting in that top 4 spots, we've been stressing on how important it is.
So just a land and go. Search for his Canter doing what it does best. Shoring up the drawers here for Huschenbett and getting that library nice and full so that eventually as Canter the Sunken Ruin will flip onto the land side of things.
Yep, and looking at that second portable hole, that is definitely a portable no at that point, trying to get a second one there.
You can't cast that spell twice. You don't have any spell slots remaining.
Great, yeah.
And a ruin is pretty nice to have.
Yeah, nice plan in case search does flip, and a nice putback from Mari Kuzma at putting back Narset. Drawing that second one really helped out, where this Prismari command is a pretty unique effect that could come in handy.
See a cycled shark on the end step here. Still nothing going for Amadi. Just gonna play the reactive game. Needs to make sure that he can answer whatever threats Arne deploys so that he can then in turn deploy his own, potentially.
Pretty nice draw there for Castle Ardenvale. Right now, Arne just didn't have anything really to do this turn. Of course, you could jam to Fairy, but with neither player really doing anything, it's a very, very unlikely situation that it works. And not only that, you see the nightmare scenario of like memory lapse into a Planeswalker of your own. And then, you know, we saw that with Madi and Sam a couple rounds ago, and it was just devastating when that play sequence happens.
Yeah. In this sort of situation, you want to be able to protect your Planeswalkers. So we'll likely see Teferi on turn 7 unless Muddy is tapped out. here, but he's going to try and find some more lands, seas, rogue and trim, and steam vents, as well as fry. That's a good way to kill a planeswalker.
That is a great way. And not only, I think you brought up a great point there, Ailey, not only protect your planeswalkers, but leave up mana to leave yourself with the illusion that you can deal with your opponent's things. We see right now, Hushabeth does not have anything to deal with it. So, I mean, if Monty knew that, he'd be jamming some Narsets with Memory Lapse backup, but it's too risky once again to go for.
Yeah. So Triskanta finds a Shark Typhoon, and you're not going to say no to that. Could we have a hard cost, please, Arne? What are the likelihoods of that happening?
I would say
none,
about
right?
0%.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chad. I know you were hoping for it, but...
Shark Typhoon's going to be cycled, a big old 4/4. So Arne, while he doesn't have much reactive permission, does have the threats on the board at the moment, and is doing a pretty good job of chipping away at Marty's life total.
That expressive iteration was a great draw. And this is really what these control mirror matches come down to when it comes to the post-board matches. Both players have a lot of sharks. You have commences. You have a ton of answers. You leave yourself with a very small amount of threats, especially in this mirror match, because this is one of the teams that decided to go with the non-Gearhulk, non-Magma Opus plan. So these games are just decided by little incremental pieces of advantage instead of this big Gearhulk smash Magma Opus plan.
I mean, I like a big Gear Hulk smash, right?
Yeah. It's definitely more exciting and more flashy, but not what this team has decided to go with. They like the slow burn.
Yeah, that's fair. Expressive Iteration, going to take a look at the cards on top of the library. Doesn't find a land, but some pretty good options here in Helix, Memory Lapse, and Commence the Endgame.
Yeah, and we've definitely reached about the time where the end game should be thought about here. Really only has the option to choose one of these. Lightning Helix, of course, can be cast, but it's not very valuable outside of, let's say, if Madi goes to cycle a 5/5 Shark here and blocks the 4/4 Shark. But, you know, probably not going to happen, so we might even see that Lightning Helix just not cast at all.
Yeah, not something he's too concerned with at the moment, as the Shark is fried in the air. We can some short work of that.
Fish food, if you will.
Fish food, yeah. Deep fried and battered. Well,
everybody loves fish sticks, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Search for Kanta is close to flipping, but I'm wondering if Arnie is just going to let it hang out there because it's safe from Field of Ruin.
Yeah, or I could see something where Arne would think to flip it when he's about to play another meaningful threat or is really ahead on the battlefield, where it's kind of overloading Madi's answers, but I don't think we're at that turn yet. So I think I would agree with you that I don't think we're going to see a flip, even if it's possible quite yet.
Commence the endgame looming in Madi Quizma's hand there, as well as that Shark Typhoon. So
yeah,
he's going to go for it here.
I think you have to at this point. Like, it's pretty obvious to me, and would probably be pretty obvious to Arne as well, that, well, it's really obvious since I can see the cards, but pretty obvious that it would be at least a Shark Typhoon or a Commence. We know that Madi has access to both of them, so you really got to try to jam something. Otherwise, Arne just doesn't have those available. If Arne had Commence or a Shark, we would see him pass the turn again to just do that. But at this point, I think you have to go for it.
Yeah, and with two Teferis in hand, you can have a counter war over one of them. But Commence the endgame. It's going to make a big old token on the board here, and we'll be able to get in for 6 points damage. Portable Hull, like you mentioned, can hit these big tokens.
After they hit you first.
They do get to hit you first, though. So just got to keep an eye out on the life total, not go too low. It does also have the Castle Ardenvale to jump in the way here.
Yep, and I want to bring some attention to this Commence the Endgame. That card is just so good in these mirror matches. It used to be some decks would play 1 or 2 Narsets reversal to really get that card good, but there's not been a lot of that around. So now these Commences, you just know they're going to resolve. It's going to draw you 2 cards. You're going to make a big thing. There's Brazen Borrower to be able to bounce the giant amass token, but that's about it. I guess as well as Portable Hull, but at instant speed, it's just Brazy B.
Brazy B. The 2/1/1s are going to get to chipping away at the life total down to 9. Goes Madi. Portable Hull on the stack. Will we see Kuzma fight over this one? Or is he just happy to let it resolve? Sure, take the token. It's fine. I'll just make another one on the end step.
Yeah, usually a 1-drop is not the target that you love to hit with memory lapse, but just being able to memory lapse when your opponent is pretty likely to activate his Kanta, it's kind of like you counter it, because they're going to get one of those cards anyways, but...
Portable Hole lands, gets rid of the 6/6. Mari just happy to sit back and be patient, wait to see what happens. The Fairy, Hero of Dominaria, has been threatening several turns now to hit the battlefield, but Arne is still not convinced that now's the right time for the Planeswalker.
Yeah, and it looks like it's just going to be a gigantic shark here to really pressure the game, and Arne does not have an answer for this at all as it stands, so this shark is going to make fish food of Arne pretty quickly unless we find something.
Oh, I think it's time to go digging for a Brazen Borrower or something useful.
Not find that, number 3.
Yeah. The Fairy number 3 is no good, and things looking pretty dire here for Arne Huschenbett.
All right, it's going to be down to this draw step to get something here from Arne, because Teferi, there's 3 memory lapses that can stop it, let alone 1 Dovin's Veto that can take care of it cleanly. This is looking really bad for any Huschenbett fans, and is going to need something big here.
A shark might be the best option, but even so, there is a Justice Strike. So it's looking like Mari Kuzma is just going to run away with this game here. These massive tokens have done an excellent job of closing out this game.
Yeah, and we got pretty close with these castle tokens. So without that giant shark, I would have said advantage Huschenbett just because you were... Ooh, there's a shark. But yeah, the Justice Strike is still going to be able to make some quick work of this. But I was going to say, these castle tokens were going to be doing some work here if it wasn't for the pressure that Mari Kuzma could have put out there, and he did so.
Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. I mean... it just feels like a hopeless situation right now.
Yeah.
Arne doesn't know what's in hand for Mari, but we know it's just a whole hand of misery.
Yeah, and you got to think, if you're Arne at the end of this, is like, did I play too conservative? Ending the game with 3 Teferis in your hand is going to bring that thought to your head no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, you'd never want to end these control mirror matches with that much gas in the tank. But, there were not really great times to cast Teferi as well. Maybe slightly too conservative, but not by much. Even if you're jamming these Teferis, there's still so many memory lapses waiting that I think Mari was going to take this down with that 7/7 shark regardless.
Yeah, I think the best bet here for Arne is if he cycles into Brazen Borrower and is able to protect Petty Theft with Memory Lapse and Mystical Dispute. But I think even then, it's just not going to be enough.
Yeah, that's got to be a great sign for Mari. Just like, yep, gonna deal with it with some answer, but I got a lot of them.
Dovin's Veto, the clean answer to Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, so that will not hit the battlefield. 5 mana left. Can play another one, and I hope like heck there's no more counter spells, but it's too risky. And we're going to turn our attention to the Shark Typhoon. Cycle for 1.
And if we Justice Strike this before we draw the card, there's no way that Arne can draw Dovin's Veto. That's really the only way to do it. So if Justice Strike gets cast now, which Kuzma's a great player, is going to recognize that this is going to be game to Mari Kuzma, joining Sam Pardee with 7 wins.
Excellently played there from Kuzma, like you mentioned. Maybe a little bit too conservative from Arne. But it is not over yet. Still at a very respectable 6-3 for Arne, but Mari is going to go to 7-2. So congratulations.